This thing's on. Is it on?
All right, welcome back to DPL. The man sitting to my right, well, you know him, you see him, and he needs no introduction, so we won't give him none. No, I'm kidding. We'll give him one anyway. That's Darren Woodson, the 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champ, Dallas Cowboy, number 28. Darren Woodson's in the house. Thank you for taking time to be with us,
Thanks,
Woodrow.
man. I didn't get the memo. The suit that you got on.
Oh, man,
is
you know
sharp,
you got
man.
more suits than me.
What size is that?
Oh, it ain't your size, that's for sure. How you doing these days,
I'm
man?
doing good, traveling, getting ready for the draft coming up,
Yeah.
and anxious to see where the Cowboys going and what direction they're going with this draft.
Right on. So your ESPN gig just keeps you busy, keeps you on the road a
Keeps
little
me
bit?
busy. Not only the ESPN gig, but my 3 kids, chasing them around all the time.
How old are they? Who are
I
they?
have
Let's mention them.
DJ, who's 22 years old, my daughter Miranda, who's 18, and I have a 14-year-old son who name's Jaden.
Right.
And he's a big-time baseball player, loves to play baseball.
Nice. Now, how did he get into baseball? But you?
I think he saw all the beat downs that I had and came down with I had 12 surgeries in my time. I'm sure you had a number of them.
Absolutely.
And I think my kids saw that firsthand. And, Jaden does play football, plays basketball as well, but for some reason his love is baseball.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing, guaranteed
I'm
contracts.
getting ready to
I'm
say
pushing
you
them that
encourage
way.
in
Trust
that
me.
direction.
Trust me.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I don't blame you. So that keeps you busy, traveling and following the kids and chasing Jalen around and doing all that kind of stuff, I know. But you still have time to watch and follow the Dallas Cowboys and keep up with what's going on, their off-season moves to this point.
Yeah.
What do you think about them?
I think they've made some good moves. Listen, I understand that the DeMarco Murray situation, they had to let him go. I think the Cowboys had a number. And in years past, they've always made emotional decisions as it pertained to the salary cap. This year, they had a number. They weren't willing to go over that number. They didn't want to lose DeMarco. But I think when you look at the way they're built right now and the direction they want to go in is they want to get stronger up front, which they have on the offensive line. They want to get stronger defensively. And I think that's what they're looking to build right now and spend their money as far as the defensive side of the ball and get better defensively. But I think the 2 best moves they made this offseason were holding on to Scott Linehan
There you go.
on the offensive side of the ball and continue to keep that defensive side of the ball with Rod Marinelli and that entire staff together for this next year. I think those are the 2 biggest moves that they had, and those are positive moves for them.
You know, your forte, of course, is the defensive secondary, and we got some holes to fill there and some situations to deal with. Brandon Carr's contract, are they going to take a cut in salary, or is he going to hold their feet to the fire and stay with that contract? Skandrick's now missing. And they have issues at cornerback, but I think they're okay at safety. J.J. Wilcox really came on, and Church as well.
2 young players, and I see the growth in both of them. I saw Barry Church in the last couple of years really come on, not only as far as coming up in the run and making big plays, but his coverage abilities, covering the tight end, covering the running backs out in the flat. I think he's done a tremendous job. And Wilcox is a young kid with tremendous energy, a guy that really wants to play the game, loves the game. And let's not forget, this kid played running back in college. Now he's playing safety full time. Wow. So it's a learning curve for both of them. But they're 2 young safeties that are gritty. They're hungry. They want to continue to get better. And I talk to them all the time. These guys, they're motivated. And that's what you want to see in your safety position.
Yeah, and I think they're playing in the mode of the number 28, Darren Woodson. They're getting after it.
They're getting
playing
after
the game like it's supposed to be played. And a lot of it has to do with what you do in your preparation leading up to the game. And I think these guys do a great job in their preparation. Now let's talk a little bit more about Darren Woodson. Now the Ring of Honor has been coming up. You know, I waited 29 years to get in. And they say I did something with Jerry, pissed them off or whatever. How come you're not in the Ring of Honor? What did you do to Jerry?
You know, how the tables turn, Drew? How many times did I ask you that over the years? I asked you that same question so many times. It's a process, and I'm willing to wait that process. I felt like, turning it back to you, I felt like it was an absolute dishonor that you weren't in immediately over that time. So you didn't complain one time about it. You never said anything negative about it, especially in our conversations.
Right.
And I always felt like, hey, if you can wait, if you went through what you went through, then hey, who am I to say that, I'm ready to, I need to go in right now. If it's a process that Jerry has to go through, then so be it. I'll get in at some point. It was always an honor to walk in that stadium and see the names that are on that that were hanging up there. Yours being particularly yours. Every time I go in there, I see yours. I see Charles Haley's. I want to be up on that banner at some point, but again, it's a process, and I'll wait on it.
Well, it is a process, and your turn will come, but there's no question you're worthy of that type of recognition. I wish Jerry would give the guys in that Ring of Honor a vote, and at least a recommendation of who we think should go in, because no one's going to be more selective in that situation than the players that are in there, and there's no question that you would get that vote. A guy that inspired me every time I stepped on Texas Stadium and I looked up that Ring of Honor was Bob Hayes, and I wanted to be that, and I wanted my performance that day. When you played for the Cowboys, when you stepped on the field in Texas Stadium and you saw the Ring of Honor up there, did that inspire you to have your performance that day be good enough to one day deserve that kind of recognition?
I remember getting drafted by the Cowboys, and the first week we went up to the stadium, the old Texas Stadium, and Jimmy Johnson took all the young rookies up to the stadium. We stood on the star in the middle of that field, and we looked up at the banner. And the name that I remember seeing was Bob Lilly.
Right.
And
Mr. Cowboy.
Mr. Cowboy. And I'd always heard about Bob Lilly growing up. My father was a big-time Cowboy fan. He remembers you with the fro and all that. Yeah, remember that big old thing? Yeah. What happened? No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I gave it to the Hall of Fame, man. The biggest afro in NFL history is in the Hall of Fame now.
But my father was a guy who really followed the Cowboys. And Bob Lilly was that guy that he always said was Mr. Cowboy. And I remember seeing that name. First time I'd ever been in Texas Stadium.
Yeah.
And I just felt like there's something about this organization. It's about, not only is it about the current teams that's out there, but it's always about the past.
Right.
And when you become a Cowboy, you always measure yourself to those teams, those great teams in the 70s, those great teams in the 80s. There's so many good football teams that are associated with the Cowboys organization. And that's what I want to do. I wanted to carry that star the right way, not only on the field, but off the field as well. And, a lot of veteran guys, yourself included, used to always come around. And I remember a conversation you and I had. And I thought about this on the way over here. You and I had a conversation a while back, and it was right after I signed it was my second contract, and it was a big contract.
Okay.
And I remember the words. We were sitting down on a radio station, and you and I talking, and you said that that's a big contract. I can't believe how guys are getting paid nowadays. And I sat there and thought about it, and I heard the story. Years later, I heard the story that when you were playing, you had to work.
Yeah,
outside every offseason. You worked, and it was at a shoe. I mean, you told me actually it was
selling shoes.
Selling shoes.
Sporting goods store.
And I thought about that, and then, I see all these big name guys, the Troy Palomalos who had the big contracts, and I'd always be jealous. Man, I retired, and I see all these guys with these big contracts, and just threw me back to that same conversation that you and I had. That the guys in the 70s didn't make that much money, but they were the pioneers of this game. And the guys in the 90s are starting to make these big contracts. So it just put things in perspective that, as time goes on, these guys are going to get paid big money, but it was the true pioneers that set the path.
I appreciate that. There's definitely a discrepancy or a difference in salaries from the different eras. But the one thing that locks us together is the fact that we played for the Cowboys, and we did it right when we played. And that right led us to Super Bowl championships. 1 for me and 3 for you.
Yeah, I was blessed to have 3. I was blessed to have 3. But again, it started with you guys, and that's what it was. It's always about carrying the honor of that Cowboy star on your helmet, and that's what made me play as hard as I played week in and week out.
I wish you could get in that locker room right now and preach that same thing to these current Cowboys and make them appreciate where they are as members of this current Dallas Cowboy football team. And hey, as always, we appreciate you taking the time and always being gracious with us in your interviews, and good stuff, man.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it, bro. Thanks, bro.
That's Darren Woodson, y'all. He's in the house right here on Drew Pearson Live, and we'll be right back with more of DPL right after this. Woo! Good stuff, man. We can go on and on with this guy.